Yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers made 5 cuts to get their roster down to the required 80 players for this portion of the preseason. Those players released include quarterback Chris Oladokun, wide receiver Christian Blake, running back Mateo Durant, kicker Nick Skiba, and linebacker Genard Avery. With Christian Blake, Mateo Durant, and Nick Skiba, no one's surprised by those cuts. Christian Blake, for him, we just had way too much depth at receiver. And then with Mateo Durant, he was clearly outplayed this preseason by the other undrafted rookie free agent running back Jaylen Warren. And then with Nick Skiba as a kicker, come on now, we already have the Wizard of Boz. But the other two kind of left people scratching their heads. With Oladokun, he was drafted in the 7th round in this 2022 draft. Many people were questioning at the time if it was a wasted pick. I mean, we already drafted a dude in the 1st round in Kenny Pickett, which would then leave 3 quarterbacks already on the roster, and all 3 were going to be competing for the starting spot. So where were the snaps going to come in for Oladokun? Now, the question of whether it was a wasted pick or not is probably more valid than ever. Maybe I was wrong. At the time, I didn't think it was a wasted pick, and throughout training camp and preseason, I really didn't think it was a wasted pick. But my perspective shifted a little bit whenever Steelers Depot posted this tweet. They have the pondering face emoji, along with 7th round picks the Steelers have made: Mark Robinson, Trey Norwood, Presley Harvin III, Tyler Medikevich, Kelvin Beachum, and Brett Kiesel. All dudes that have made an impact. So if we were just going to pick someone up in the 7th round and just cut them like we did with Chris Oladokun, then I do kind of get where they're coming from here and why, yeah, it was a wasted pick. Especially with how training camp and preseason played out here too. Like, Oladokun barely got some snaps in training camp and then did not receive one at all in the preseason games. When was that ever going to happen, though, looking back? I guess hindsight's 2020, but I mean, with Kenny, Mitch, and Mason all competing for quarterback 1, when were the snaps ever going to come into play for Oladokun? The way this is salvaged, though, is if Chris Oladokun clears waivers and the Steelers are able to pick him up, stash him on practice squad, and then in the long term, he's the solution as the backup quarterback. But also, you could spin it this way. I mean, is it that big of a deal? Is it that deep? I mean, Oladokun was one of the last 20 picks in this draft. And instead of trying to go through the hassle of competing with other teams for undrafted rookie free agents, why not just take him if you were always going to add a 4th quarterback to the room anyway? So if that's what the Steelers were thinking, that's understandable, right? And that's the thing. I feel like there's way worse stuff that you could be complaining about when it comes to the Steelers. This ain't it. Because as I was scrolling through Twitter this morning, Chris Dokish hit it right on the head. If you're complaining about who the Steelers picked in the 7th round, you're just looking for a reason to complain. They hit on every single other pick, for goodness sakes. I mean, he's right. It's a small sample size up to this point. It's only, 3-4 months removed from the draft. But we have hit on every single pick outside of Oladokun, right? 1st round, Kenny Pickett. 2nd round, George Pickens. 3rd round, DeMarvin Leal. 4th round, Calvin Austin. 7th round pick, Connor Hayward. Other 7th round pick, Mark Robinson. 7th round pick, Chris Oladokun. Some people just want to blow stuff up out of proportion. Wasted pick? I mean, right now, I guess. But again, we hit on every other pick. And if we're able to pick him back up, stash him on practice squad, and if he somehow becomes a long-term solution as a backup, then it's still a dub. I mean, I just think there's way more other things you could be worrying about than the Steelers releasing a 7th round pick a couple weeks before the season. I do wonder, though, if this is a hint or a sign of Mason ultimately staying on the Steelers roster for 2022. Because if anything, I think it's pointing in that direction now. But now to Genard Avery. This one is absolutely a head scratcher, considering that our outside linebacker depth is subpar and Avery was supposed to be that 3rd guy. I thought he played well in the preseason game. And then literally just on Monday, as we were doing our podcast recap, Arthur Moats, who is an outside linebacker himself, said, yeah, Avery's play gave him confidence that he could be the 3rd guy. Then, bam, on Tuesday, he's cut. Didn't make sense, but if I had to bet money, I'm going to say that Avery's going to be back. Look back to last year. We did the same thing with Arthur Maulet, who played really good in the preseason, thought he carved out a role, but then we cut him, and everyone was like, what the hell's going on? But then after we did some shuffling of the deck with injury reserves, putting some guys on a shelf, we had some roster spots open, and we're eventually able to pick up Arthur Maulet again. Also, dudes like B.J. Finney and Rashad Coward. So I could see something like this playing out with Avery because he doesn't have to clear waivers. I wonder if the Steelers told him, like, listen, we're cutting you right now. We want you back. Wait 2 weeks. Let us get everything in order with the roster, and then we'll pick you back up. It's still weird and confusing, though, because I feel like there was some other people right now that you could have let go, given that we only needed to get it to 80 players. It's not like we had to get it to 53 right now. But that's it for this edition of Big Deke News. Let me know what you guys think of the recent Steelers moves down below in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chillin'. Peace.